book se sikhana is very tough because unless and until you've got a newborn baby given to you or an empty slate, then you can teach by the book. Whereas if somebody has played and he comes to you, and that is a completely different scenario altogether. You've only got to work with what you have, and Joe, what works for him. Coming back to you, some valuable points both you and Rahul made. Rahul, you're on mute. So
sorry about that.
Both of you.
Just adding to what Ramesh said. It's not about teaching basics, but as a spinner, we need to know our concepts. Like what is long arm release. So if in today's, because interacting with so many players, being with Mumbai Indians, I mean the concept about what is long arm release, they don't know what is long arm release, which is just a concept. If you know what is long arm release, what it does to your bowling, why it helps, then obviously basics could be different for everyone. But knowing the nuances, what different thing does while in your bowling, to understand those concepts. If you understand the concepts, it's like when you're doing maths. If you know the concept, then gradually you will solve many things even later in your years, and you will keep learning. But if you don't know the concepts, and if you're just going through the whatever is happening in today's cricket, then it's going to be difficult. There are very few players who know their concepts, and if the kids can learn the concepts, what is long arm release? How do you get using your body into bowling? Why it's like when you bowl far away from the wicket, it's just using one arm. There are many bowlers nowadays just holding the ball like this. So that is again a different concept. It's away from the, and what happens when you hold the ball like this. If they understand that, they can add a little more to the game. But unfortunately nowadays the kids are just going through whatever, I don't know what they've been taught, but those concepts are missing. Because I've interacted with many, and when I ask them questions, they don't even know that basic, that how do you get side on? What does it what it does? So I try and explain them. Have you seen a javelin thrower? He throws far because he's side on. He's more energy. So if you are side on, it doesn't mean side on, you're bowling with one arm. It is the entire body coming to play. So those things, if the players can under basics, if not basics, but the concepts, if they get clearer with the younger generation, I think they will be better off going forward.
Yeah, again, valuable points made there, Rahul, about the analogies which you gave for people to get side on and what it does. You mentioned the long arm release, and also both of you and all of us have been taught about the importance of that lead arm. For you, Rahul, you were much closer. Your delivery was much closer to the stump, and your arm went towards the batsman. What did that arm do for you? What did it give you? What were the signals you got from that arm, and how did it help you? Like for me, that arm was more about controlling my back arm, and I could control length with it. Like I remember every time I've spoken to Lakshman Sivaramakrishnan, he always used to say that it gave him direction. For me, it never gave me direction, because since I was side on and I was looking from on one side with one eye, it was always going. My arm was always pointing towards possibly second slip. So I couldn't have gone bold to second slip. So it just gave me control as to how I was letting it go. And always, Bishan Paji always used to say this has to go slowly and the bowling arm is quicker. The lead arm is always slower. So for me, it was more length and just controlling my rock back and body. How was it for you guys? Ramesh was very different. Ramesh used to go side on, and then his hands used to go like that in front. Like you could see the palm towards the batsman and slightly towards first slip. He would be pointing towards leg stump and then go towards possibly the right pad of the wicket keeper. So what were the things which you got from your lead arm?
So for me, everything was a lead arm, because if my lead arm was in the right direction, it gave me the initial thirst. It gave me that energy to transfer weight from my front foot to the back foot and get my body going. And as rightly said, that Bedi sir used to say that your bowling arm should go at a faster pace. That is because the lead arm gave direction and it holded the torso in the delivery stride to release the energy to the bowling arm. And the bowling arm only came into play once you were right up, because till that time it's just an extension. And moment the bowling arm was up, with the front arm taking the entire body through the delivery stride, you just had that the quick arm action from the bowling arm, using your back of your shoulder to impart as much spin and energy into the ball possible. But for me, as you said, rightly said, the lead arm gave direction, gave that thirst, and helped him getting the body through into the delivery stride. So it all, the lead arm was the most important, and the torso, the ribs along with that to keep that. So for an example, if my lead arm, for me, if my lead arm slightly dropped, my entire bowling was different and there was no energy or power into the ball or the bounce, anything. But as long as that stayed good and I was going through that flow, the entire body followed for me. So it played a very important role. For me, I thought my bowling arm was just an extension, and it came into play when I was right up there and just, putting energy into, force into the ball once he's here. So major role was played by the lead arm.
I think for me, it was more of, if you think, when you think as a batsman, it's like a backlift where they feel they start batting. For me, it was the same, that, this is my start basically. Because I was never coached that way, that, how you use your front arm or grip, or where should be your ball resting. Can it be below chin or here or there? For me, it was all the things together. This is my stance basically, and this is my trigger. So this is trigger and these are reactions, whatever happens from there. Because I had a strong grip, so grip and the release was never, I never thought of that particular area that, I have to do this and that while releasing the ball, because I was only worried about my side on position. So it was trigger for me. Yes, it is important. Obviously it is important. It keeps you side on. It gives you that kind of feel where you feel that, you're ready to blast the delivery. Simple as that. When you get into this position, for me, I'm saying I'm in control. Simple as that. If it is not there, if it's going, say, away from me, I'm losing my balance. If it's too inside, I'm jumping in. So for me, it was between two eyes, and I never thought front arm for the directions. I was just thinking that this is my trigger where I need to, just transfer my run up into the crease and just bowl. I was trying to keep it as simple as that. This was only my trigger. It had its benefits, but I never thought in such a way. Slowly, I learned that, the action of the front arm determines the reaction. So then you learn to do a lot of big wheels or small circles or bigger circles. Then you understand, if you make a bigger circle, the arm will go up. If you make it short, if somebody is stepping out, you drop this and you put that ball on a shorter length, so you get stumps. So it is different every time how you use that particular arm.
100%.
So it was basically, it was like the lead arm helps you loading your force and unloading it. Basically, you get everything together
like this.
Generate that
force. ABD now, so if you compare that ABD or Virat Kohli, they are ready. That's where I think I'm ready here to do what I want to do. So it's more decisive rather than just going through quickly.
And also help you to pause a little bit and see what the batsman can do.
Yeah, that was something I was going to get to, because both of you had a beautiful pause. So that load, it's like a slight pause which you get. And as Ramesh said, if you know that the batsman's not running out, you've got an extension release. Sometimes to control the length, you pull it because you need to shorten the length. Both of you mentioned drift, and drift has been a crucial aspect of spin. And both of you got a beautiful drift, Rahul and Ramesh. And right through your careers, you've been much slower. Your majority of the balls must have been much slower through the air than even quicker. Did your release point change because of that? Because many people feel that the ideal release point is possibly slightly ahead, 1 o'clock, where you open the doorknob. For you, if you bowled slow and both of you were slightly shorter, it was not as if you guys are tall guys. So I remember releasing from behind yourself, right close to the ear. In spite of that, you got the drift. How did you manage, and what does drift mean for you? How do you get it?
Ramesh, you go first this time.
I think drift was, my strength was drift and turn. If I don't have drift, I can't.
No, but how did you get it? How did you get that drift? Was it because of the revolutions? Or was it the way you held the ball?
Is that what is drift and what is angle? Okay, a lot of people find, putting the ball from a round arm action, they think it's a drift. I don't think that is a drift. When you put a lot of revolutions on the ball will automatically, it happens. I have never learned this way that, I have to achieve drift. If I keep, highest revolutions on the ball, it is with the breeze, it is going to go out. With the side, because I had a side action, proper sidearm action, so it never bothered me. And release, if you release behind the ears, yes, there was a drift, but the pace on the ball was less. So I used to release at the ear level.
Close to the ear.
Yeah. Close. But one more thing, nowadays I find that, a lot of kids are using the first finger halfway through. They are not going over the ball. So there's less revolutions. And what they try to do is do this kind of bowling, okay, jerky bowling. If you see a lot of bowlers, young bowlers, they try and do this. They don't complete their finger on the ball. So if that will give you maximum revolutions, because if you do this, obviously it is going to rotate much more than the way these guys are doing the halfway. For me, revolutions on the ball.
You make a great point there. If you take a freeze frame of photographs of spinners, and I would say you, Rahul, Manivia, Joshi, and if you just take a finish frame where your hands are behind, the lead arm is behind, and where you're finished, where your fingers will be? It will be very close to the knee. Whereas now, what you mentioned is that when they finish early, so they finish around their hip. If you take the freeze frame or a photograph, they're around the hip. Whereas after finishing, when that back leg is also lifted, you will see that your bowling arm is actually in level with your knee. And I think that's where the finish has changed. I don't know whether that is a coaching bit or whether it's a byproduct. Look, I'll again come back to what you guys were talking about, and I think it's a great time to address that. Rahul made a great point that people aren't listening to basics. But where does the fault lie there? The fault does it lie in the coaching system, or does it lie in the fact that many young players are exposed to T20 cricket, which means that they learn things the wrong way? Ramsey, I don't think you've ever bowled fast. I remember you getting Gilly in the power play. It was like drift, and he went and he was to Gilchrist. And I've never seen Rahul bowl fast when he's been hit. It's a different thing that everybody's built differently and there are different paces at which you bowl. But is it because of the way you were brought up? And I can still remember, and Rahul has been my captain, even in the 50th over, if we were bowling, Bishan Paji would say slip and a short leg. So you've been brought up to get hit, and then you get that survival instinct. And you learn the spin bowling the right way. And I've always said this, and I think I've used you as a classic example all the time, Ramesh, is that when you have learned to bowl this way, when you can bowl darts.
Yeah.
But when you have only learned to bowl darts, which means your body is conditioned that way, when you throw the ball up, and people say I'm bowling slowly, but it slowly doesn't mean that throwing a tissue paper like that. Even a baby can bowl slowly, but it's got nothing on it. So where does the fault lie? And I'm asking you this because, Rahul, you're a coach, Ramsey, you're a coach, and you're in charge of the NCA, the Spin Bowling Academy of the country. How do you change it?
See, Karthik, the point that you mentioned that in the earlier days, the finish was around the knee. That is basically when you have a long arm release, whether it's a fast bowler bowling out swing, when he's going ahead and releasing and finishing long arm, his finish follow through would be somewhere around the knee. But if you're just upright and bowling short arm, your finish would be around your hip. So it's again coming back to concepts. And as you said, why would the ball drift? It's a simple because if action is correct, if you're side on, and if you're having everything going the right direction, then when you impart spin and finish, when you're finishing towards the knee, automatically and holding the rough side. I don't know what the science is. When you hold the rough side and
rough side should be in.
Rough side
I kept it in.
Rough side
the shiny portion is outside. So we get a bit of reverse. Yeah, we get a bit of reverse swing. In fact, we might be bowling at 80, 85, but in spite of the shiny portion being out, you still get reverse swing because the ball drifts towards that side.
Yeah. So I mean, when fast bowlers used to do reverse, I used to go other way around, keep the shine inside, so still get the ball landing where I wanted to land. But I'm saying it's basically the right basics: side on, good energy into the ball, and then good release point, and finishing somewhere around your knee, which help with the revolutions, help the ball to drift and drift in a nice way, that much what you wanted. And again, probably we are lucky that we were born with a natural rhythm and a good action, and then we were able to develop it further all throughout our journey. But having said that, I think we were born with a natural action, but we also had the right people around us to get those concepts clear with us. If I didn't have Gurcharan sir or Bedi sir who gave me that confidence that it's okay to be hit. So even in the nets, Bedi sir used to say, okay, if someone is stepping out and hitting you every ball, I don't mind, because in the match, if he has to play from the crease, that's a good length ball. So that's the confidence that he gave me. He said, it's good they are hitting you, because in the match, they're not going to step out every ball. That means you're landing where you're supposed to land. And then at the same time, you're mentally preparing that if they step out, you'll be able to see them in the match. And that's why you always emphasize, keep bowling what you're doing. So automatically, it gave me confidence to keep bowling slow, and the drift came in. And that's the reason I used to get a lot of cotton balls. It's a different story. I dropped a lot as well. There's a very interesting story which I'll tell you later, my debut game. So it automatically, you wanted, even today when I bowl in the nets in IPL, if you look, that's my bowling is about bowling slow. So I bowl in the nets to all the giants and I keep bowling slow. But it helps me. I can see what the batsman is doing. I would go for runs. I keep telling the players, even now, bowlers, 20-20 game, every second game, you're going to go for 40 runs. Just keep that in. Don't get bothered by that. You are bound to go for rounds. Whether you bowl flat, whether you bowl flight, whether you do anything, it's meant for batsmen. But if you have something where you can get them out, probably every second game, you'll have wickets and you'll change the game. And that's what spinners like Amit Mishra, again, tossing it up, he goes for runs every third game. But those two games when he doesn't go for runs, even if he goes for runs, he gets wickets, which changes the game for other bowls to be effective as well, and probably restrict the score below par score. So whether it's a 20-20, whether it's a one-day game or test cricket, if you have the right basics, if you toss it up, the other thing I also feel, if I'm darting something towards you, it is natural reaction for you to do whatever you want to do. But if I'm putting something above your eye level and dropping, you have to make adjustment as a batsman as well. And that's where you get the batsman. So those things, we were lucky that we had right people. I call myself fortunate to be around Maninder Singh, Vishen Singh Bedi, and then obviously both of us practicing together. Then automatically you were given the right direction, that it's not about, even in the match, he would say, so what if you go for runs? It doesn't matter. You got to get the batsman out. So we were brought up with that mindset that yes, you have to get the batsman out. If someone asked me to bowl outside leg stump or outside off stump, I was never able to do that, because that didn't come naturally to me, because whatever hard yards I put in from the age of 13 when I started playing till the time I played Ranji Trophy, it was all about the right action and right basics. And that restricted me from, doing something like bowling outside off stump or outside leg stump. Didn't happen. I could bowl in the stumps with the drift and try and get the batsman out, or go for runs, or probably restrict in that fashion, but not otherwise. So it also, the drift and the mindset also drift comes with your action, what kind of action you had. If you have a correct action, a lot of things will happen in the air. And the aptitude and the mindset came with the surrounding, the people around you. So that's why they say a spinner is as good as a captain of the team. If a captain believes in you and gives you that confidence, is willing for you to go for runs, you'll be able to toss the ball up. But if the captain wants you to just restrict, then you'll have fielders, deep square leg, deep point, long on, long off, and only one or two fielders up front, which we have been seeing nowadays in Test cricket. So it's all about the belief, and belief makes you do a lot of things and learn also a lot of things.
I think Rahul covered it nicely. I think the environment in which we've been brought up was different. The environment right now is different, and we were nurtured differently. But now nurture, I don't feel we as a India, we are nurturing spinners.
No,
And I
but again, that comes back to us. We are all accepting that we were brought up in these circumstances.
Exactly.
But why can't we create the same circumstances when we are in charge to help people the same way? Because the way you learned was the right way. So it doesn't change, isn't it?
It matters.
I don't want to get into the politics of what's happening nowadays. It's unfortunate that at first class level, not very few top guys are involved. Very few, like we were fortunate to have Maninder Singh and Bishan Singh Bedi around us. We learning from the masters of the game. Because, I mean, though I didn't know who Bishan Singh Bedi was, but I was so fortunate we had the top guys teaching us. But if you look at the Ranji Trophy level, if you look at the Ranji Trophy...
Initially that you didn't know who Bishan Bedi was, but after that you knew exactly who he was.
After that, I mean, we've gone through the hard toil all throughout our life. Come on, son, get up, son. Come on, son. That's a different story. But what I'm saying, if you look at the first class level or the under 16 level or the under 19 level at the state level, there's this, let's keep the politics out. I don't want to talk about it, but a lot of mediocrity has come in. A lot of coaches have come in who personally I feel have not played enough to actually passing on the knowledge. But having said that, there are kids who've been lucky enough to be around good coaches, like NCA is doing a good job now, having the right guys involved, like Rameshwar, Hirwani, and all those guys who played so much. But the problem is NCA is a nurturing ground after those kids have played at the state level.
Yeah, exactly.
The work needs to be done at the state level. Like I was a selector, and I was said there's a conflict of interest. You cannot because you're working with Mumbai Indians. So I wrote to the ombudsman. I said, fine, I'm a selector. Fine, I'm working with Mumbai Indians, but that's a different role. But at the same time, I'm what I am today is thanks to cricket and the right people nurturing me. If we don't come back to serve, if the right people don't come back to serve, I'm not asking money. I wasn't taking any money. I see you need right people to come back and serve so that the next generation is better, which is not happening.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I completely agree with you, Rahul, because the good guys who can nurture you the right way, they're also doing other things. So then the conflict of interest comes in because it's not as if that you can only do one job. And over here, when you're doing it for the right reasons, as you said, you should be allowed. But again, that's for a different day. Every bowler, every spinner needs a certain go-to person on the field. It's so important because sometimes you're trying to figure out what the pace is on the surface. Sometimes you figure it out yourself. Sometimes somebody helps you, even with other things as well. There's such a lot of feedback which is given from people around you. Who was that person for you, Rahul and Ramesh?
So for me, I think the wicketkeeper was very important. And that's why, I played a lot of cricket with Vijay Daya at first class level and had a good rapport with him. So the feedback from the keeper was very important. He's seeing right from behind from where I'm bowling. Right from front from where I'm bowling. So he knows exactly where the ball is landing, what's happening. The other person, obviously the captain, because what the plans are, what we are planning to do, and about my field placement, how I want to look at the batsman. And the third fielder important for me was the point fielder, to know exactly after pitching, what do you think, what's happening? Is it bouncing a lot or not? So those three fielders were very important to me.
Interesting.
For me, keeper slip was the most important part. Keeper was Vinayak Samant, so it was difficult for me because he was different, honestly. But in slips, there was Wasim Jafar, Amol Muzumdar. So I used to get a lot of feedbacks that thoda ball slow aa raha hai, nikal nahi raha hai, ya fir flat ho raha hai. Yeah, inner circle always helps you. The point, the covers, the short mid wicket, they can see your bowling from different angles. From covers, it's different. From point, it's different. From mid wicket, also, it's different. From square leg, it is different. So you keep chit chatting with these guys, and you get a lot of feedbacks while playing the game. And in practices, obviously, you want to have feedbacks from the top 5-6 batsmen. Then you bowl to tailenders also, keeper and down. you speak with these guys also. So it is more of a team feedback, not a particular person, but more often slip and keeper was the point where I used to, take feedbacks from. And off cricket, I think you go back to your coaches, who's you think who can help you. No, no, I used to go to Vasu sir, but he at some point told me that you can't just be dependent on me. You have to find your own ways. You can't just go back to your coaches every time and ask how is my ball coming, because that coach is not going to watch you play Ranji Trophy game every time, or the club game, or whatever you're playing. So he told me that inner circle has to be, involved in your bowling. You keep asking them what exactly they think, and that helps. And current coach of the team will always give you feedback what is happening. For me, it was keeper and slip.
How long did it take for you guys to assess or suss out the pace at which you want to bowl on a particular day or a particular session? How quickly did you realize that this is what I need to do on this pitch, or this is the pace at which I need to bowl?
So for me, it was like first few overs, no matter what the conditions, the first 3-4 overs was just about settling down and, getting my rhythm going and assessing how it's looking. How the wicket is looking, how the conditions are, the breeze and everything, So whether any conditions, first 4 overs was just about me getting into the rhythm. So those 4 overs, I would not have a very attacking field or anything like that. Whether it's a 4-day game or a 1-day game or even 2020 game, if I was playing, obviously 2020 it's first 4 overs, but I'm saying the first over or in 2020 and few overs in 1-day and test cricket would be just about getting into the rhythm. And then after that would be about attacking. And then obviously a phase came where again you have to go back to, okay, when I'm tired now, just let me just bowl a certain area and then let me keep going, and then we'll see next day.
As rightly Rahul said, first was accuracy, first 2 overs with the red ball especially. You basically play more games on home soil, home grounds. So you know your wickets. When there's a grass, what is going to happen? If there's no grass, what is going to happen? How you can start, how when you change your lines, days go by. When you play home conditions, and when you go away, if you're lucky enough, if you're bowling in second innings, then you know what exactly is happening. If you're bowling first innings, then again you go for accuracy first, then you slowly start going away from the stump and try and spin in the ball, spin in when right-hander is batting, and you get that experience along the lines when you think in a way that you're a main bowler. You're not here to support. If you're there to support, then you'll end up bowling accurate. You will not try anything else. So me for 2-3 overs was good enough to know what exactly his wicket is playing. With the white ball, it was more of tactical. If we've decided that if I'm going to bowl against Hayden, what is my plan? I'm going to bowl. I'm going to turn from the leg stump, outside leg stump. I'll encourage him to sweep. I'll keep a deep square leg. So if you're bowling with white ball, it is tactical. And 2020 1-day, you can't go there and find your lens and line. You have to be ready. There's no time at all in white ball cricket. You have to practice well. What exactly is plan, and you go out there in nets or mentally you do it. So for me, it was like that.
Again, adding to the first 4 overs, while the rhythm was set for me, the longer mid-off, mid-on, covers and mid-wicket were very important, because when first few initial overs, I would probably be bowling up. It would happen naturally that I would be like going for drives, or could be one full toss here and there, and then after 4 overs. So the covers and mid-wicket and mid-off and mid-on were very important, because I've seen many games where I've gone first few overs runs because those field placements were not right, because that was the time I was setting my rhythm. And after that, if those positions are right and I've not gone for runs, and after that, I've always been very effective. It would be different for Ramesh, but I thought for me, because of the way I used to bowl, I used to land the ball a little up compared to the good length spot in the first few overs. And those field placements also were very important in those few overs for me.
It's a very.
And you know,
Sorry?
it's rightly said that where your fielders are. Setup is very important. For me, it was mid wicket, deep mid wicket, and long on or mid on. That's where I used to play on batsman's mind that if mid on is halfway or is long on or it is up. So I used to challenge batsmen with these two players, deep mid wicket and the mid on or long on.
You come from different teams. Again, if I think of Ramesh Pawar, you were always part of a three-pronged spin attack. You have always been you, Sai, and Nilesh Kulkarni, three very good spinners. And with Rahul, you've been the sole warrior. I can't. Very late in your first-class career, you had Sarandeep Singh who joined you in Delhi. Otherwise, you've just been the sole spinner amongst some very good pacers. How does that mindset change when you're a sole spinner? You have to constantly be the wicket taker, and as a third spinner, sometimes you get underbowled, sometimes you get overbowled. How do you adjust, or how do you manipulate your own head with regards to that?
Well, I was actually very excited about that because in those days, playing fast bowlers were more difficult than playing spinners. So playing among fast bowlers, I was excited and I prepared myself that they're going to attack me. Because if there's one end, because I was expected to bowl from one end, and I would do that for many years. I've done that for Delhi. And you had fast bowlers, initially obviously fast bowlers from both ends, and then one end would continue with fast bowler, and the other end I was expected to bowl. So I knew that when you're playing 3 or 4 fast bowlers and there's one spinner or maybe 2, they're going to attack you. And I used to enjoy that. And I had prepared myself that I'm going to stick to my basics, keep bowling in the wickets, because the wicket was such in Delhi, it was placid, skiddy. So I had to bowl in the stumps so that even if they hit me straight, and I can have my field placements there. And at the same time, I can have a closing fielders as well if I'm bowling straight. So I kept doing that, and I was just watchful that when someone was stepping out, then probably I had a chance, or a one catch at silly point, or one driving going to a slip. So I always enjoyed that challenge because I knew that when you're playing fast bowlers in those days, it was players used to like playing spinners more than fast bowlers. So I had an opportunity. So I took it in a positive way, and probably that's the reason I played so many years and I continued going 20, 30 overs in a day. And there have been times when like bowling 25 overs, not getting a single wicket, and then next 5 overs getting 4 wickets. But the idea was that, you're given a job. Your job is to bowl from one end, keep that end quiet. But at the same time, I had my own way of bowling. So I would do that in my own fashion, keeping in the stumps, maybe driving good land area, and just having the right feeling, keep doing my job. And at times when that, if a wicket has fallen from the other end, I will try and attack a little more and try and get one more wicket there. So I always enjoyed it actually. In fact, it was better than bowling with 2 spinners. I
think even Nikhil played with you for a bit, isn't it? Even Nikhil Chopra played with you.
Initially, but it was always about rotation because the fast bowlers kept coming. Playing in winters, we always had 3 or 4 fast bowlers who were bowling all the time. Yes, Ramesh, it's your time now.
Yeah, for me, it was very different. Honestly, when I walked into that team, there were 7 test players. And the culture was, if you don't perform first 2 games, you can pack your bags and go home. Be a batsman, a newcomer especially, be a batsman, be a bowler. So I in front of my eyes, I saw Rajesh Pawar, who was the highest wicket taker on my debut season, was dropped the next season. Then Nilesh comes in, Sai goes out, Sairaj Bhautule goes out. So I was pretty sure that if you don't perform here as a match winner, we are not looking at getting into the squad. We were just looking at, if you're not match winner, you're not going to survive in this team. So there's no survival. You have to have that killer instinct. Every second,
perform or perish.
You have to take 5 wickets. You have to win the game. You have to bat well also, because you're at number 7 or 8, because there will be 3 seamers after you. 2 spinners used to play at that time, and I used to bat at 7 or 8. So you have to perform every game. That every game was my last game. That was the culture for everyone, not just for me. That's why the killer instincts or the lot of things said about Mumbai that we we won that many championship or there's a Khadus attitude. It's not like that. It's about your killer instinct. Otherwise, you're gone from there. So I learned that quickly. I saw three bowlers who were doing fine last 3-4 seasons were dropped in front of me. Sai gone, Rajesh Power gone, Nilesh gone. I was there for 15 years, so it is big achievement for me that to stay in that squad for 15 years. First of all, 13, 15 years. So it was competition. It was fierce. If I pick up 5 wickets, Nilesh Kulkarni used to come to me. I think it's my turn. Otherwise, I'm going home. It was same with the Sai. Sai also used to come. I have to pick 5 wickets. Otherwise, I'll.
Both you guys were never the verbal guys. You never the chirpers or never said anything to a batsman. But do you feel that when you had to play mind games with them, did you want your close-in cordon to create a bit of theatre and hype? Did you believe in that, or you didn't bother about all those things?
For me, I thought obviously when you're playing a game, everyone plays a role. Fielders will always be chirpy. Keeper would always be up to the batsman. But I had my own my game going along with the batsman. I didn't need that, aggressiveness or some kind of banter on the ground going. I knew exactly what I'm doing, and I knew that what the batsman is trying to do. And at times also, I also thought that, if things are not going well, it's always better to be quiet and slow down everything. Let him make a mistake. So for me, it was just my mind versus the batsman and fielders playing their role. I thought, I always believe that, what you want to do, you can do it with being quiet and enjoying it yourself. It's your own enjoyment. I had my own way of enjoying it. Aggression, no, I've never been an aggressive guy. So I always enjoy. But yes, there was a mind game going on with the batsman. What is he trying to do? What am I supposed to do? How can I get on top of it? And bowl to the best of batsmen, and at times also accepting that today is not my day. I'm gonna go for runs. So being quiet, slowing down things as much as possible. Even those tactics, but very quietly, because that's how I thought. Even today in my life, I'm a very low-key man. Though I've been working with MI for so many years, you will never see me in the front end.
Yeah.
That's the nature of a person. So it's to each his own. What works for him.
Rahul said rightly, it's nature. And in first half of my career, I was not talking too much. I think close-in fielder were taking care of that. You had a Samir Dige behind the stumps. Then you had a short leg, silly point or slip. They were speaking something. Amol was always there.
Amol was there to make up for everyone.
And in second half, I tried few things which didn't help me. So I thought it's not my game. So let's stick to my bowling and my skills. Let's play mind game. Let's beat him in air and have a smile rather than just going after verbally. And Wasim used to stand at slip. So when Amol went and Wasim came in, I used to start, do these things where I got a little verbal because Wasim is a quiet man. He will not.
Wasim won't say anything. Yeah.
So I used to try that thing, but Vinayak Saman came in, so there was no need, and I could focus on my bowling. And I tried few times, but it didn't suit me. So I just, let that thing go away. And I focused my energy on the skill part or tactical parts. And the team around me was very vocal when I started my career. When you play in 6-7 test players are there, Vinod Kamli is there, Sachin is there. There's always pressure on the batsman. So why you want to get into the things where you are trying to establish yourself rather than going into this zone that I will do this and I'll do that. It might be just play your game and make sure you make a statement with your performances. And later part is I enjoyed that. I had some good chats with the bats because after 10 years of first class, you keep chatting with the opponents. You can't just come in as I'm not going to speak with you today because you are opponents. When you play with each other, you tend to speak with each other. There, that is not there'll always be a banter after you become a seasoned player.
Does it help to have great seamers in your team? Because sometimes bowling to all 10 batsmen can never be easy for a spinner. Ramesh, you had you were lucky that you had very fine fast bowlers, Ajit, Zahir, Santosh Saxena, Paras Mambre. You've also had some wonderful seamers, Rahul. You had Robin Singh Junior, and Amit Bhandari, who did really well for Delhi. Ashish Nehra, whenever he was fit. So does it help to have or to come in after these kind of bowlers bowl? Does it? You could be a good spinner, but in spite of that, does it help to come in after some good fast bowlers have bowled?
It does, obviously. I mean, if the fast bowlers have been impactful initially, taking 1 or 2 wickets, it really helps a lot. So if you're bowling after 2 wickets are down in a 4-day format, that's a lot of. I mean, as a spinner, you can do a lot. But if you're bowling straight to the openers and the fast bowlers have not been effective, then at times also it's difficult. But by far, I mean, playing in Delhi conditions, the fast bowlers that Delhi has had, like Prabhakar, Atul Vasan, Feroz Kyas, and then Amit Bhandari, Robin Singh, they were effective taking wickets. So moment the fast bowlers played their role, they took few initial wickets. It really, as a spinner, I was on top of the world. Then I was right there. No matter what the conditions are, placid wickets or not, it doesn't matter. Even on a turning track, if the fast bowler has picked 1 wicket or 2 wickets, it became easier for me as a spinner because I would be expected to do the bulk roll. And if someone has taken 2 wickets already, it becomes that much easier to penetrate into the batting side. So, of course, it's all about all the bowlers working together for the team cause. And fast bowlers being effective initially really helps, and even in the end. So there have been times when you've done your job, but you're tired, and the opposition is 6 wickets down or 7 wickets down, and the fast bowler comes in, reverse swing, gets 2 wickets. Atul Vasan played that role brilliantly. He would support and come in. Okay, come, give me the ball. He'll get those 2 wickets, and then you're back again to finish the tail off. So it's about supporting each other, but depends on situations, what situations you are into, what situation you're bowling into, that decided whether it's you're comfortable or not.
For me, I think it was very crucial when I played my cricket, because I played with Abby, Paras, Santosh Saxena, Ajit Agarkar, Dhawal Kulkarni. A lot of these guys were hungry for success. So a lot of the times in the first innings, I didn't bowl much overs in first part of my cricketing career for Mumbai. I hardly could get 1 wicket. If they are tired, then I used to come and control the game with the bowling little flat or trying to take 9th and 10th wicket if they are tired. Otherwise, they used to run through the sides. And it does help when you have such strong pace attack. Obviously, it helps. And there will be always a healthy competition when there are good 3 streamers in your side, because everyone wants to be a match winner. Ajit wanted to be a match winner. Dhawal wanted to be a match winner. Then Santosh Saxena wanted to be a match winner. So there's a healthy competition, and they're coming with their own plans, team plans, individual plans. They're hungry for success. So it does help when you have 3 seamers and you're off spinner, and then there's a leg spinner, Sairaj Bhotule or Nilesh Kulkarni. There's a brand of bowling you create, and there's a healthy competition. When the first innings is open, and in the second innings, if me and Sai or me and Nilesh don't pick up wickets, they will come and taunt you. You're not doing your job well. We've done our job. What you're doing? You want us to come and bowl in second innings also? Then you should not be in this team. It was a healthy banters also sometimes. So and it did help. The fast bowlers inputs about the wickets. Ajit was batting, bowling all rounder. It did help. Impact they had in Mumbai for 10 years or 15 years from Paras till Dhawal was big, because of them, you want to win matches. You can't just win because a single bowler is good. You want a bowling unit, and that helped us to evolve. We could graduate to the next level, be it spinner or fast bowler. I think that healthy competition made a lot of difference to me, because I knew if I don't get wicket in first 5 overs, I'm not going to get ball after I'll be fourth option then again. Then Ajit will come, Dhawal will come, or maybe Paras will come, Sai will come. They will bowl their spells. We used to fight why I'm not getting bowling. Wasim and coach used to struggle. What Amol used to struggle. What can we do that will make you happy, all five of you? Because they keep asking for ball. We can bowl two bowlers at a time.
On a lighter note, the only worry would be where they are fielding while you're bowling. That would be the concern.
It definitely would be. I think you guys had, that's one of the reasons why Bombay did so well. Guys, it's been fabulous. It's been so educative. It's been so informative talking to you both. But just to put everything in a nutshell, if you had to tell young spinners all that you have taken away from your life in cricket and life bowling spin, what would it be?
Ramesh, you go ahead. NCA coach. The youngsters are waiting to listen to you.
I think most important thing which I've learned that don't lose the love for the game. Otherwise, it is not going to help you. Whatever you do, it will put a lot of pressure on you. So you have to, remind yourself every time why you started playing this game. Because you will be touched by 10, 20 coaches, 10 captains, 20 captains, friends and everyone. They will come with a lot of information, but at the end of the day, if you don't know why you're playing this game, you will not convert that information into a knowledge. For me, it's important to have that love for the game. Passion, passion, it might fade away because the number of balls you will bowl over the time. If you play 5 to 10 years, the passion will fade away. But love, I don't think holding that ball in your hand will, always give you that. When I hold the ball right now, it gives me a certain feeling that should not go away. That is what I always tell whoever I come across, because learning will happen. It will happen. Some will come and touch you either way. They will give you bad advices, good advices, excellent advices. But if you have the love for that cricket ball or the game, the information will be turned into a knowledge. That is what I've learned over the years as a player, as a coach. And if I interact with a lot of these guys, young cricketers, right from India player to under 16 guy, they are too much into competition level. They are too much into getting better and better. But it is not that easy to get better. It takes a lot of time. And to spend a lot of time, you have to have love for that game.
Well said, Ramzi.
I think just adding to what Ramesh said, he said it perfectly. Obviously, enjoyment and passion is one thing, and most of the kids who start playing is because of enjoyment. I think as a cricketer, as a kid who's just starting cricket or who's playing at a junior level, just go out, enjoy the game, work hard. I mean, working hard is very important in spin bowling because, as we say, that it's an art. You have to work on the rhythm. The rhythm doesn't come in just bowling a little bit here and there. It's a day in and day out effort, couple of hours every day. So you got to keep working hard. Try and learn good basics from your coaches if possible, because that's going to help you in the long run. And once you're playing at a certain level, again, coming back to, you got to enjoy it. Don't worry about the results, because nowadays many players are anxious to play IPL and 2020 cricket and this and that, want to be seen on TV. If you're enjoying and if you're playing wherever you're playing, results will come on its own. And all these are byproducts. Yep. If you're playing good 4-day cricket, all this is byproducts. And even to perform in 1-day cricket, 2020 cricket, you got to play good state level cricket. If you can bowl 300 overs in a season, to come and bowl 24 balls in a match would be very easy and you'll be more confident. So just don't think about all these things. These are all byproducts. It will come when you keep playing, and at the right time, these things will come and add to your career. So just go enjoy. Focus on the game that you're playing in hand rather than thinking about all those bigger picture, larger pictures. A lot of players have got lost thinking about those while they were playing at a certain level, thinking that they will be playing there and not being in present where they are right now. So just focus on things in hand. Results will take care on its own. All these are byproducts. It will come when the right time is meant for you, and it will come in your career. So just enjoy and keep working hard.
Oh, brilliant. Fascinating stuff from both of you. Thanks once again. Thanks, Rahul. Thanks, Ramzi. And best wishes to both of you in all your endeavors. May you help nurture lots of young spinners.